Welcome to It's a Grand Life. Did you know that in the United States alone, 2.4 million kids are being raised by their grandparents or other family members other than mom or dad? 2.4 million. It's a Grand Life is a podcast for those grandparents and kinship caregivers who are committed to making a difference for those kids. Grand families are in every neighborhood, every city, tribe, and territory nationwide. If this is you or someone you love, this podcast is for you. Our goal is to offer hope and resources to help you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts and leave a review. Every new subscriber and review helps us reach others that need assistance. Welcome to another episode of It's a Grand Life. Hello, my name is Craig Nash. I would like to welcome you to another It's a Grand Life. And today we're going to have a grand time. I've got one of my dear friends from Huntsville, Alabama on the program today, Keith Lowhorne. And Keith is always positive. He's always smiling. He's friends with everybody. And you're going to just enjoy our time today. Keith, welcome to It's a Grand Life. So great to have you.
Thank you, Craig. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a while since we've really talked like this. So I look forward to it.
Oh, me as well. So I know you've got a lot of stuff going on down in the Huntsville area, down in Alabama, but why don't you just give our listeners a little history? How did you and your lovely wife become a grand family? How did you get into this?
Well, it was really by accident. We had a grandson whose name is Kyron. He was born about 10 years ago, and he was born addicted to drugs. And his biological mother is an habitual drug user. And so he was in the NICU for several weeks. And during that time, our eyes were open because we had never been a part of any of this world. We didn't know nothing we didn't know NICUs existed for this. We thought it's for sick babies, but not for babies that were born addicted.
Right.
And so our eyes were opened tremendously to this world. And so while the whole time he was in the NICU, the nurses and the social workers and everybody else were like, yeah, you need to take him home. You're going to go home with him. He's going to go home with y'all because it's much better than his life outside of here, because it was either a drug hotel or a car or a park bench or wherever. But unfortunately, when it came time for him to be discharged, the Alabama Department of Human Resources thought it was better for him to go home with the biologicals.
Okay.
And that was very sour for us, of course, because we knew we could take better care of Kyron, and we did. For the most part, for the next 3 years, we pretty well took care of him for the majority of his life, because drug babies are born, and it's not a good scene. There's crying, there's screaming, there's vomiting, there's just not eating. They just want to be held and squeezed. And all these things that no child should be born into. Coming into the world should never be experienced like this, especially when they had no say in it. So this went on for like about 3 years, and then we get a call that there's another baby, and this baby was also born addicted, and she was her name is Harper, and she's now 7 years old. And we brought her home from the hospital because the day after she was born, DHR actually came to us and said, "Okay, you have a choice. The two children can either go into foster care, or we can give you custody of the children." So of course we were jumping up and down with joy that we were going to be able to have the kids. So after about a month, Harper and Kyron came to live with us full time, and that turned into about a 13 or 14 month court hearings and all the good stuff that goes along with that. And then we eventually ended up adopting those two, because we thought it was better that they come live with us in a much more stable home life than they were getting and they were allowed. And during this time, at some point in this time, the biological father actually OD'd and died.
Oh.
And so we knew at that point that we could far take better care of these of both the kids. And that's what we've done. They live with us. We've adopted them. They have, my name at 60, whatever am I, 58 years old. My name's on their birth certificates.
Wow, that's awesome. That's just awesome.
So yeah, so it's made a big difference in our life.
Well, I until you got into the 13-month legal battles, I thought you guys had it pretty easy, where the state said, "Here, you got to take these two," but you it sounds like you spent a few minutes in court.
Yeah, we spent well, it was a few minutes only, but because court hearings are very quick and
Right.
very fast as the judicial system runs. But the funny thing about it was the kids had attorneys, the biologicals had attorneys. DHR was involved because DHR had an attorney,
Ah,
even though DHR wasn't involved since they gave us custody of the child, and so all of a sudden, when we went to court hearings, they were like, well, we can't tell you anything. Edie and I were just sitting there going, what do you mean you can't tell us? We've got these children. And you think there would be some kind of communication with all these lawyers that are being paid by tax dollars that they could at least tell us what's going on. They said, no, you have to hire your own attorney. So we had to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars on an attorney just so we could have a presence in the courtroom. And we couldn't even go in the courtroom at that point. A lawyer could go in, but we couldn't go in until the very last hearing, when the parental rights were terminated, and we went before the judge, and he questioned us, and they had given the mother many chances, and she just failed all of them. And so he had no recourse except to terminate her parental rights, and it went from there.
it's sounds like a long time, but well worth the hassle, right? I mean, and now
Oh,
Chiron and Harper, you've adopted them. You don't have any more of these issues, and like we've elected to be the guardians of our granddaughter, and we had a little incompetence with our lawyer, believe it or not. And my wife's a lawyer, but she doesn't do family law. But by the grace of God, our grand's father testified that he recommended that she be raised with us. So that was,
wow.
and we've always been very friendly. So that's he realized that he wasn't prepared for that, and that worked out real well. So. So you have got a 7-year-old, and Chiron's a 10-year-old, right? And
Chiron is 10, yes.
Chiron, yep, he had a 10-year-old, and so there's been a lot of adjustments in your house, and
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you that the thing about babies that are born addicted is that it never stops. I mean, they're always in therapy. Chiron has so many issues. And when we go to a new doctor, I just say he's got more initials behind his name than you do. He's got autism, he's got ADHD, he's got SPD, he's got RAD, he's got ADHD. He's got all of these diagnoses due to being born addicted. And it's an everyday occurrence as to, we don't know how he's going to act when he gets up. We don't know how he's going to act during the day, but we've grown accustomed to that, and we've adjusted our lifestyle to that. Harper, on the other hand, is just a 7-year-old, bright, energetic little girl who has no issues. We have found, she's been tested, there are no issues, and in fact, she actually takes care of her big brother, and that's what she says, that she knows that her life is geared towards helping her big brother Chiron.
wow.
And so she's like his protector. We have a little dog, and you think the dog would be his protector, but no, if Chiron's outside and somebody just walks up, whether it's just another dog or whether it's whatever, she steps in between and makes sure it's okay before Chiron goes into it. So
That is
it's just an adjustment we make. It's life.
that's terrific. It all works out, doesn't it? Just
Yeah, and you adjust.
and so you've adjusted like we have. We've got a 10-year-old in the house. You've got a 7 and a 10-year-old. So I'm kind of focused my radar a little bit on social media. So I want to ask you, how are you guys handling the technology and the social media in the house?
Very, very. It's hard because some of the friends' parents allow them to do whatever they want to do on the social media, and we're very strict. And my wife is far better at it than I am, and I totally admit that. And we have about an hour of screen time, what they can have at night, when Edie and I may be watching TV or talking or whatever, and they can have their iPads and watch something that we've chosen or they've let us see what it is. And it's usually something that's kid oriented or educational. Kyron is into dinosaurs, has been since day one. I mean, he lives and breathes dinosaurs. He can tell you stories about dinosaurs that it's a shame that, at 60 years old, and even today, if Kyron will come out sometimes with something about a dinosaur, and I'm going, nah, that's not true. That's no way that could be true. So we go to the old famous Alexa, and we ask Alexa, and it's gotten to the point now we don't even go to Alexa. We just go, oh, that's a great fact, because he's always right.
But the dinosaur, that sounds pretty harmless,
Oh yeah, it is. It is, and so he loves anything about dinosaurs. So he's always watching a dinosaur documentary or something about digging up dinosaur bones or anything to do with animals. He loves any and all kinds of animals, and Harper's into dance. So anything that has to do with fashion, hair, dance, ballet, jazz, all that stuff that she takes is her thing. So and then they play with Legos. They love Legos. We play outside as much as we can. I'm trying to get them into gardening, which sometimes is like pulling teeth, but I really want them to encourage them to get out there and get dirty and get their knees dirty. And I think that's a good time for them.
I think that's a great idea. And I'm just reading a book now called The Anxiety Generation about how, I don't know if you've ever heard of that book by Jonathan Haidt, but he is a clinical psychologist that has done all sorts of documentation on the advent of the iPhone and how that with Generation Z has generated so much depression and loneliness, and with young men, even higher rates of suicide and what have you, all because these kids can't get off their devices. And so you guys are farther along than we are. We're having a come to Jesus meeting with our granddaughter this weekend, and it's just to try and lay down some appropriate boundaries, because otherwise they don't go outside. They just want to sit inside and sit on that little box. And she is into the fashion like your Harper and all of that, and loves the dance and what have you. But we'd like her to stay 10 as long as possible and not try to be 21 or 25.
Yeah, we have that kind of conversation almost daily. And then Harper interjects. Sometimes most of the time she calls me Daddy, and sometimes she calls me Grandpa. And so she'll say, Daddy, can we go shopping? I said, baby, what do you need now? She goes, I just need new clothes. And I'm thinking, Harper, your closet is bigger than mine, and you've got more clothes and more shoes than me and your mama combined.
I love that.
And she's spoiled rotten. They're both spoiled. So we're just glad that we're able to do it, and life is good, and that's all we can ask for. This parenting 2.0 is a journey that we weren't expecting, we didn't ask for, but boy, I think we're going into it headstrong, and we're just going as far as we can, and hope that we can get it and make it until they're adults and can be on their own.
Well, not only are you helping these two wonderful kids out, but you're now expanding your advocacy to help other grand families, and that's really a passion of yours. And I know you and I are part of the Generations United Grand Voices, but you're doing a lot in Alabama. And why don't you share with us about the GAP program? And last time I looked, you were on a radio station. They were interviewing you locally, and I always try and post what you're doing on our It's a Grand Life Facebook page, because we want everybody around the country to see it can be done, if you step in that gap. But how did you start Grandparents as Parents?
It's and it's a long story, and you just tell me when you want to hush, or you tell me when you need to interject, and I'll just stop and we can go from there. So when we first got Kyron, I had just retired. When we first got both the kids and they were in our house, I had just retired, and I had stopped. I was in the TV news business for 43 years. And we knew it was time to retire, and because the business had changed so much, and I just I didn't want to adapt to this new way of doing journalism. So I retired, and And then it just got to the point that we were supposed to travel and we got the kids, so we couldn't travel. And I started looking, I was like, surely somebody in this world can help us that knows about grandparents raising their grandchildren. And being in the news business for as long as I did, I knew everybody. When you do what I did, you have a Rolodex full of people that you count on.
Right.
And I would start calling these people politicians. I'd be calling, county commissioners. I'd be calling mayors. I'd be calling anybody I could find and ask, well, is there anything in your city or that can help for grandparents raising grandchildren? And they were all just, it was like, nobody knew what I was talking about.
Crickets.
I was like, so I'm the only grandparent raising grandchildren in this world. I said, I just can't believe that. So we got affiliated and we joined another nonprofit that dealt mainly with foster families, and we were doing the grandparents as parents as part of that. And then after a few years, we were doing so much more with grandparents as parents, and we decided it was just time to go out on our own. And so we did, and so we got lawyers involved, and we became we got our EIN number, and so we're a nonprofit. And here we go. We were thinking we're going to go slowly as we go. And during this time, the pandemic hit.
Right.
And all of a sudden, when the pandemic hit, you have these grandparents that are out there that all of a sudden, I don't know how they got our name or our number or anything else, but our phone started ringing, and these grandparents were going, we need help. Can you help us do this? Can you help us do that? They couldn't get the food. They were hungry. They couldn't go to the grocery store because they were afraid. They couldn't go to the schools to pick up the lunches that were being provided because in most cases, or in a lot of cases, these grandparents were having to go back to work. They only had one car after they became, living by themselves. And so they couldn't do all these things that were being offered. So I reached out to some more friends that were actually in the nonprofit world, and they were like, absolutely, we'll help you. So since I guess that was mid-March or April of 2020, we have handed out or donated, or however you want, whatever word you want to use, about 120 tons of food to grand families. And some of that goes to adopted families, and some of it goes to some foster families that are in need. So we try to help anybody. We don't ask questions. Everybody just knows that, and we have to have a system as to this week we give these folks this week. So we have because there's so many out there that need help that we usually try to help about 100 people per week, and
wow.
And that's why. And these people just show up at our house, and we pick up the food, and they come to our house, and they just get what they want. And what's really, really interesting is that these families, even though they may have 6, 7, 8 people in their home, they'll ask if it's like a pound of hamburger. They'll say, is it okay if I get a pound? And I'll say, no, you take what you need for your family. And they'll say, well, I don't want to take too much. And I said, no, you take what you need for your family, and we'll worry about the rest of them. And so it's gotten really interesting how this has all worked out. So that's part of our mission. We do food, we do clothing, we do school supplies. My wife started about 3 years ago. Yeah, this is the third year, so 2 years ago. She started it's called Christmas for Kin, and she gets the grandparents of kids that are being raised by their grandparents. She gets them to do a Christmas list, and then she goes out and she finds sponsors that will buy exactly what's on that list. So, and that's a blessing in itself that we can find people that will go out and buy, whatever it may be. And of course, we don't, if people ask for, high-end computers or these high-end game systems and all this stuff that is outrageous, we say, we can't do that. It has to be reasonable.
Right.
And so the average is we're giving probably $300 to $400 per family. And last year she did a little over 300, and this year she's wanting to do 400.
400 kids?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So last year it was right a little over 300 last year. So this year is going to be 400, and we've already started. It's we'll talk about the radio station stuff a little bit in a few minutes. But yesterday I cut a spot called Christmas in July, and we started the Christmas. We're going to start the Christmas promotion this month, and with that many people, it's all kind of logistics. we have some grandparents that don't pick up until Christmas Eve.
Right.
So it's like sometimes we have a hard time walking in our house. So,
I'm thinking you got to have a loading dock. You've got to have, this
oh no, no,
huge
no,
square
no.
footage. And I
We
mean,
have
my wife would have a heart attack with 400 people
yeah,
coming for food and everything.
we, oh yeah, and there's even backstories to that. What started out when it first started, we live in a homeowners association, and so some of our neighbors were concerned. They were seeing all these cars, and so they were lined up. There's probably 10, 12 cars. So you would think what you would actually think we were doing, and the HOA president said, "Hey, Keith, I need to come talk to you." And I said, "Okay." So he came down. So we explained to him what he's doing. He goes, "Hey, don't you worry a bit about that. I'll take care of these people, and you do what you need to do. And if you need help, call me." So now neighbors help us. They found out what we were doing, and now they come and help us. And we all just, I don't want to say it's a party, but it's like a family gathering because people just come and everybody's acquainted with each other. Often we get new people and they come right into the mix, because even though we may live in a different house, we may look different, we may act different, but we all have one thing in common, that we're raising our grandchildren or some other relative. And that we have that in bond, we bond with that because and the vast majority are drug related. And so there are all kinds of issues and we all understand each other. We may come from different backgrounds, but we all have that common thread that we have stopped living our lives as seniors and we are living for the grandkids now.
That's 100% correct. And there's no partisanship. There's no racial issues. There's no socioeconomic issues. The playing field is level. It is, in fact, the insight that I get from folks different than me is amazing. And it's just really how the whole country should operate. Really, we'd get some real things done if everybody approached politics like this.
Absolutely. If we had a couple of grandparents and they were raising grandchildren that would take the stand, then we could probably move this country forward.
We probably could. But
I'm not volunteering.
Oh, same here.
Craig Nash for president. Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know about that one, but hopefully we get some good folks. That's
yeah. Let's hope. That's all we can hope for these days. So anyway, so we got our 501c. We do the food, we do clothing, we do the Christmas, and so at Christmas time, our house is just packed. We have a few places to sit. We have one of the table, because we get those dining rooms and all the other rooms that wives have that we don't need them, but maybe once or twice a year.
We have the same one. The same one.
And so we got it's like a 3,500 square foot house. 3,000 of it is filled with Christmas presents. So we can't get to the beds. We can't get to the chair if we're lucky to see a TV, but we're also busy trying to get all this stuff organized. And so it's a good time because we all the family gets to be together. It's like we're not playing on our phones and the iPads and things. We're watching what each other is doing, and we're trying to teach the kids so that, because we're not going to be here forever. And I don't know that this is a legacy to leave, but I would sure like this to continue because we know that grandparents raising grandchildren are going to continue. Oh. That's not going to go away. I mean, there's no signs of it going away. So, we can only hope for that.
Well, so this is an amazing story. It just, you're not just sitting on those GU calls. I mean, this is, you've got a full-fledged 501c3 with many different the limbs coming off this thing, the food, the clothing, the school supplies, the Christmas.
And it's all by accident because it's not like we were looking for this. It was just like, well, if we need this help, then maybe we can just help other people. And it's just grown from there. It's not, we didn't have a goal of what we were going to do. It's just that, God has blessed us and now we're trying to bless others. And it really boils down to that. And so now that we've got the 501c3, being in TV for as many years as I've been, I had every month here in Huntsville, we have an old journalism luncheon. It's old TV people that were in news, sales, production, just the whole gamut. And there's usually about 10 or 12 of us that are sitting around, and then they know what I do. And one of the guys is a good friend of mine. I've known him for years and years and years. And after a lunch one day, he called me and he said, "Hey, we need to meet. We need to have lunch again." I'm like, "Okay." So we had lunch, and he goes, "Okay, here's what we're doing. I've already got a sponsor for you for the next 12 months. You get this many spots on our radio station, and you get to do this, and you get to do this, and you get to do this." And I said, and my mouth is just dropping. I'm like, "Okay." And he goes, "And it starts Monday." And this is like Wednesday or Thursday. And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, you need to be at the station. We need to cut a spot. And we need to do this, and you need to be on the morning show and let them talk to you about it." And I was like, "Okay." Instead of being slow and methodical, all of a sudden we're going 90 miles an hour down the road again. And that's where we are. And we're still on that train driving 90, 95 miles an hour. And we do the radio spots. And that has just opened up quite a few things for us. It's just amazing. I had a meeting yesterday with the Schools Foundation. It's one of those nonprofits that deals with the school systems where I live. And they said, "Well, we know we got hundreds, if not thousands, of grandparents raising their grandchildren." And I said, "Well, first of all, you're the first person to acknowledge that for me." She goes, "Oh yeah." She goes, "Yeah, even in the school." She was principal before she took over as executive director of this foundation. And she was telling me that even in what is deemed a high income area of Huntsville, they've got dozens, if not hundreds, of kids that are being raised by their parents. And she goes, "We need help." And so she invited me to do some stuff. And so we're going to collaborate on a couple things. It's just doors have opened up. It's definitely not us. It's that higher power. And we're just going where we need to go, and we're doing what we need to do. I thank God that I don't sleep much. I never have been a big sleeper, so you know how old people are. We go to bed early. So, and the kids
I do know how old people are very well. I know that.
And the kids is digested well. So, at 10 o'clock is late for us. We had to go to a dinner the other night, and we got home about 9 o'clock, and I'm like, "Wow, that's the latest we've been out in years."
But eventually, Keith, I see you got to have a building, right? You're probably going to need to have some paid staff, and because your bandwidth is, when you went on the air, I'm sure the radio station, you've touched all these lives, and it's amazing how the higher power, or God, whoever you want to call it, he's got a heart for the fatherless, and that's really where you're at. You're just serving the underserved, and with open-handedness, and there's nothing in it for you. Just what can we do to serve folks that need it? And what a great story. I mean, just what a blessing you are to the Huntsville community.
Yeah, well, it's working along, and they've been a blessing to us. Every day that someone picks up food, or we help somebody, or we get a phone call and we can advocate for them, then they've been a blessing to us as well, because I probably learned something either about them or about their story that may be a little bit different. Whether there could be all different stuff. There could be abuse. There could be all these things that changes the story and can change your whole life and can change the trajectory of the child. So we all learn from each other. We don't judge. We definitely do not judge. And we don't, and nobody really talks about their children or their children's children that have gotten in trouble, or they have died, or they've overdosed, or whatever the case may be. So it is what it is.
You're united by service. You're serving one another, but I'm thinking about how the good Lord prepared you for all this. That little Rolodex that you have after those 40 plus years in communications and the television industry. Everybody, and you've had to research all these stories or whatever that you did for TV, and now that's really becoming a blessing to these grand families. And And I mean, the training you've had is amazing, even though you had no clue.
Well,
This is what, you're thinking you're
I,
going to be playing golf or something, and that's not the plan.
well, our plan was to travel.
Oh, travel.
In
Okay,
fact,
yeah.
our plan was to travel. I grew up in a military family, so I grew up in the Far East and in Europe.
Wow.
And so I didn't even come to live in the United States except for a couple of years when my dad was in Vietnam. We lived in England and Okinawa for the vast majority of my life,
Amazing.
and so I wanted to take my wife Edie back to those places. And in fact, we had planned a month-long vacation journey, whatever you want to call it, to Europe right before we got the kids. And so we couldn't take that trip. And and that was for a long time. That was a sore spot for me because I was just, it really made me mad because I wanted to go back and I wanted to share that experience with Edie.
Right.
And now, what's the funny thing about that is that now Harper and I will sometimes sit on the couch or lay in the bed and we'll watch YouTubes of these people that travel for a life now. And they make money off traveling. And we go to those places now through the eyes of someone else.
Wow.
And it's not like we're there, but for now it's where we are, and it's okay.
You've just had to adjust. That's it. But
Yeah.
the good you're doing is really hard to quantify. I mean,
Well,
and I can't wait to hear what Christmas is going to be next year. I mean,
yeah. Well, it's we have already determined that we've got to do something, and we're very fortunate that we've got a church that's very close to us who has helped us tremendously with some storage, and that's good, and we're hoping that they will even help us more, and they said they will. So it's just now a matter of just saying, hey, can you help us with this and that, and I'm sure that they will. They understand exactly where we're coming from. They've never had to raise their grandchildren or another relative, but they know several people in their congregation that are. So we speak occasionally at their church. We go on to Wednesday night. They invite us to Wednesday night dinners, so people get to know who we are, and that's always good. So we're making strides with where we need to go. It's just moving at a much faster pace than I had wanted. But it's nothing you can do about that. You just go. I mean, this is somebody's pushing me, and I don't know who it is, but it's the good Lord. And wow, it's when you
and,
sleep at night, you go to bed.
and he, I've heard he just continues to take you higher. We're going to hand
Well,
out a few things of food during COVID, and now all of a sudden we're doing 100 a week, and now
yeah.
we've done a couple Christmas gifts, and now all of a sudden we're doing 400, and it's just really amazing. And he just is continuing to reward your faithfulness.
The eyes at Christmas, when you know that when children wake up on Christmas morning and just they see in their eyes just the brightness that they see, oh, I got exactly how did Santa know what I wanted, and that's the way children should grow up.
100%.
Sometimes they have a hard life, and that's my wife is a Christmas person. We have Christmas trees in every room. they all are themed. If you can imagine, there's the kids. Harper's got a tree that's decorated for fashion and pink and the girl colors that stays up year round. It just changes decorations. Kyron's got a dinosaur tree. One of the trees has Edie's grandparents' ornaments on it. We got the big family tree. We got more trees than you need to. If anybody needs to borrow a tree, I got you.
We'll just put that at the bottom of the screen when this goes out. If you need a tree, you reach out to Keith. But so what motivates you to keep growing this, to keep doing this, and to look for new opportunities to serve?
Well, I don't know that it's not me. I mean, it's not me. I mean, sometimes I wake up and I look at the calendar and I go, huh, how did I get involved in that? Huh, Edie, did you? And we just don't know. It's got to be God. There's no other way it can be, but it's got to be God. and he's keeping us. I think we're getting younger. My hair is getting thinner, I know, but my at least and but we're waking up. We have new renewed energy, and we know that hopefully by the end of the day we're going to help somebody. And that's, when you go through life, boy, isn't that what it's all about? I mean, it doesn't matter if it's children or if it's some other thing that's a passion of yours. It's just good.
I couldn't agree more. And we've got to circle back close to Christmas because we got to hear how the Christmas
Oh,
program's going and do a follow-up. But
there'll be presents all around me. My
oh,
office,
I love
my
that.
office would my office would no longer be an office.
But I talk to a lot of our colleagues, at Generations United, and a lot of folks in our part of Generations United, and there is a constant theme of God dragging us or pulling us or leading us
Yeah.
into this area of service. We had no clue what retirement was going to be like, and now I'm as busy, and I know you are as busy as I was when I was working, and
Yeah.
we've seen with this podcast that just started as an idea that fundraisers volunteered, and now a marketing person has volunteered, and if God's hand on it and you're blessing others, it's going to happen.
Isn't that wild? I mean, I can tell you a couple other stories. So we got the radio station,
Yep.
and then I had a friend that was a marketing expert. She called me. She goes, "Hey, let's go to lunch and let's talk about this nonprofit that you're running." And all of a sudden, she sat down and she goes, "Okay, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we need to do it, and this is what we're going to do for you." And I'm going, "Okay." I just don't know. It's like, you take it, you go. And then I had another friend who, I was very blessed in my past life as a TV, and I helped her get a business started. And she called, and I called her and I said, "Hey, can we go talk about some events?" She said, "Sure." So I kind of explained to her what we were trying to do, and there's this new way of doing business now, and it's in coffee shops. So I'm not a coffee drinker, so we met at this coffee shop, and it was like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm looking around, and it's all these people that are obviously having meetings in this coffee shop.
Right.
And I'm like, and she says, "This is where I do most of my business." I'm like, "Okay." I said, "So you don't?" She goes, "No, no, no. I work from home, and it's just I do my business here." And I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." And so all of a sudden, she was spouting off big ideas, and so we're starting to work towards those. So we got two major events that we're going to be hopefully doing in the next one in November and one next year. And during all this, the guy at the radio station that surprised me with the radio sponsorship, he called and said, "Okay, we need to meet at this car dealership." And I said, "Okay, why?" He says, "Well, this is what we're going to pitch." And I was like, "Okay." So we went into this car dealership at 7 o'clock in the morning. The owner gets there at 7 o'clock in the morning, and he drinks coffee before his employees get there or his salespeople get there. And he just plans out his day, and it's, I guess it's his time. So we were sitting around this table, and and I explained to him, what grandparents were doing. He kept nodding his head. He goes, "Yep, I know." He says, "We got family members that are raising their grandkids." And I was like, "Oh, this guy gets it." And he goes, "Well, I don't know anything about in this organization." So I gave him the elevator speech, and he said, "Okay." And he got up, and he says, he got up, and he was like, and I'm like, "Oh," because I'd never met the gentleman before. And he says, "Okay, just tell me what we're going to do, when we're going to do it, and where I write the check." And I was like, "Okay." And we went outside, and my friend's name is Mark, and he goes, "Okay, so now we got our headline and sponsor. So now we just got to come up with an event." And so that's where all the event stuff came into place. And so now, we've got a radio station who's given us a sponsorship. We've got a donor who's already saying, "I'll sponsor whatever you're trying to do."
Unbelievable.
And so we're doing everything backwards. You started your nonprofit, and then from there from ABC. We're going from CBA.
Well, yours seems to be working just fine.
I don't know. Sometimes I just throw up my hands and go, "Lord, you got to guide me, because I sure don't know where I'm going."
Keith Lowhorne, it absolutely sounds like he's guiding you and your lovely wife, and just like everything you guys touch, he's blessing it, and
Oh, yeah.
you're just helping all sorts of folks. And So
Yeah.
we need to circle back in the fall as we get close to what do you say,
Hey,
Christmas for Kin. And I want
Christmas.
to hear an update on your main event and everything that's going on. And this has been the most fun. It's a grand life. I cannot tell you. This is such a blessing. And maybe you'll have the new administrator for your organization with you by then.
We already got him picked out. So to see that's
I was making a joke. You already got it picked out.
Yep. 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 And we've already, and what we've done is we actually presented to the Opioid Commission in Alabama, and we were asking for money, opioid money, because that's where this money should be going to. It should be going
100%.
to people, the grandparents, and to the children.
Right.
Why is it going to prisons, and why is it going to all these other agencies that are helping people that want to use drugs instead of people that were born addicted to drugs, and people that are having to change their life because of
Right.
drugs? And now we're not asking for everything. We're not asking for the moon and stars, but come on, give us a break. At some point, somebody's got to give in and say, grandparents, they're a force to be reckoned with.
Right.
And at some point that's going to happen.
Well, it's just so exciting to hear what's going on in the Huntsville area, and I can't wait to have you on again to give us an update about what's going on. But thanks so much for being our guest today, and It's a Grand Life, and it's been just a grand time with you, my friend.
It's been a lot of fun for me as well. I appreciate it.
And look forward to seeing you very soon. And thank you all at home for joining us on It's a Grand Life. This is what can happen when you open your heart and your hands and say, God, what can I do to serve others? And this is the story of Christmas for Kin out of Huntsville, Alabama. Keith Lowhorne, thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today for It's a Grand Life. It's a Grand Life provides vital content, regulatory updates, and subject matter experts that are committed to supporting the 2.4 million kids and their caregivers from every neighborhood, every city, every tribe and territory nationwide. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. Every new subscriber and review helps us reach others that need assistance. As caregivers, we are united in purpose. We are driven by hope while providing strength for today and hope for tomorrow. We are truly making a difference while living the grand life. If you have a suggestion for a future episode, please reach out to us. But we'll see you next time for another It's a Grand Life. Thank you for joining us.